system.
What is going on, everybody? It's your boy, the Executioner, and if you don't know, now you know. And speaking of you know why we are here today. And if you don't know, well, let me tell you why. So the first and foremost thing, we are here today because we are going to be discussing the, what are we in? 2013. Actually, are we in 2013? Oh, man. I guess we are in 2013. I thought we were in 2014. I'm completely off here. So we are in the fourth season here in MLR Mogul, and it's been quite a ride so far. So basically, as I said, fourth season. We're entering into the fourth season. Tonight is the first sim of the night. There's been quite a bit to talk about, including some trades that have gone down, as well as some free agent signings, as well as, I guess I don't know what we want to call it here, the Thanos snap that we just did basically in the offseason to get rid of some teams. So for what a lot of you don't understand, I mean, I wouldn't say don't understand because that's kind of belittling there. What I'm saying is that we've had some issues bringing in some GMs, getting them going, and it just didn't work out. So we had to move down a couple teams, and so we're currently sitting in an 18-team league now. If you didn't notice, especially from last year. I mean, we had 24 teams last year. So with that being said, as I said, we had 24 teams last year, quite a bit of teams, but a lot of people just weren't sticking around. I mean, honestly, I feel like we were very, 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 very unfortunate because of the simple fact that, I mean, we had guys that came in, had Mogul, got a new computer, couldn't get Mogul to install, ended up getting a Mac, anything that like really kind of like held us down, kind of did. And it kind of sucks because when you're looking at a league like this, you want it to last as long as you can. But honestly, I feel like with the current core that we have of the 18 that we have, and even a couple other GMs looking to get in, I think it's more than likely going to be a lot better going forward. If you're wondering what happened with those teams, as I said, bam, gone. Thanos snapped, and they're gone, and as well as all their players. And I know the whole thing with what we wanted to do with those players was kind of up for discussion, was a pretty big debate, and some felt more about the other, and and luckily it ended up civil. Nobody ended up leaving because somebody said this and somebody said that, thankfully. But, I mean, other than that, that's kind of like really all it is. So I'm trying to keep this relatively short today, probably a good hour. I started here at 4 my time. Going to be ending it around 5 o'clock this time as well. For anybody out there listening, awesome. Thank you for listening. It doesn't show anybody listening right now, so that's perfectly fine. I said putted. Can you believe that? Putted? What the hell is putted? Putting on YouTube. I'm also going to put it on YouTube a little bit later so that you are also able to hear it. So I guess the first and foremost thing we will address is, I was going to address the teams that did get Thanos snapped. And, so I guess I'll go over them. So we have Pittsburgh, the Pittsburgh Pirates, who were 67 and 95. Let me go ahead and pull this all the way up here because I feel like I'm gonna end up missing teams or something like that. So the Pittsburgh Pirates were one of the teams that got snapped. The San Diego Padres were another team that ended up getting snapped. The San Francisco Giants, I mean, me being a Dodgers fan, I mean that's cool with me, because I hate the Giants. But yeah, so those were three teams in the National League. The other three teams that were in the AL, it looked to be, let's see, we have, wow, Boston was one of the teams to get snapped, which is honestly not something that you see every single day because Boston is one of the more popular teams. Nothing against Pittsburgh or San Diego or San Francisco, but usually Pittsburgh, San Diego, San Francisco in my experience in Mogul are usually the last teams to either get filled or one of the first teams to get contracted. So, there wasn't too much of a dent. We did talk about San Diego's run last year, and then their and then their absolutely awful finish, winning one game in the last 15 games to fall out of both wild card spots. It was absolutely ridiculous. 84 and 78, they won't be missed. San Francisco 52 and 110, they won't be missed. Pittsburgh Pirates 67 and 95, they definitely won't be missed. There was some good players on those teams, but ultimately the league decided and felt it would be better to not put them out and just make everybody super good, which I can understand, but also at the same time I have my own opinion on it, and quite frankly it doesn't matter because here we are now, right? So with that being said, also we're going to the American League. As I said, we have Boston, who did make a little bit of a dent, but really didn't come too close. They were actually a game out of the wild card, but no GM means they're gone. 84 and 78, they got snapped. And then we also had Minnesota. Minnesota, a very surprising team who won the division the very first 2 years, Cleveland finally took over, but that's because Minnesota, I wouldn't say the only reason why Minnesota kind of fell down was because their GM left, but that's one of the big reasons. When your team isn't GM'd, yeah, they kind of go down into the shitter, I'll tell you that. So, so that was one of the teams, kind of one of those things where you're like, all right, whatever. Another one was, let me see here. I think that was it. So did I go over all of them? So I'm trying to make sure that I have everybody here. Boston, Minnesota, Detroit, Los Angeles, Oakland, Seattle, Texas. Texas got moved over to the NL West. So there was another team that I am completely missing. Honestly, I can't even figure out who that last team is. If it comes back to me, I will definitely let you know because I don't know what happened there. So some bigger teams that were kind of lost there. And that was just bothering the hell out of me. Who the hell did we get rid of? See, Atlanta got moved to the Central. Oh, the Chicago Cubs. Sorry about that. So Chicago Cubs, 67 and 95. Had a couple good players. Had guys actually had some prospects. Guys like Salvador Perez, John Singleton, Chris Bryant, Aaron Judge, Jurickson Profar. I know they had Kyle Hendricks, Zach Rosscup. Actually, he doesn't even matter. I don't know why I even mentioned him. Probably because he's a Dodger today, and that's the reason why we suck. Anyways, so prospects like that get Thanos because, we couldn't fill him up, and that's not really, our fault or anything like that. It's just the way the mogul landscape is here today. So I guess I'll spend another couple minutes talking about the free agents that were up and out today. That were up and out for. Let me go ahead and pull them up. All right, so the free agents that we had this year, the free agent class was a lot better than it was in previous years. It was actually being headlined by third baseman Mark Reynolds and starting pitcher Adam Wainwright. both of them, if I remember correctly here, actually, where is Mark Reynolds at? Because I believe Mark Reynolds was a compensation. He must have gotten deleted off the free agency mark already. So if I remember correctly, Mark Reynolds was a compensation A. Last year, batted 271 with 26 home runs. Really wasn't his best outing, but definitely does have a ton of power, and he's a huge bat to have in the middle of your lineup, no matter what you look at. Adam Wainwright, 87 overall. He is 31, going to be turning 32, but by August 30th. So basically, this year he's going to be playing, and his entire year at 31 years old. Last year had a okay year, sitting at a 4.29 ERA, went 16-11, had 183 strikeouts and a 3.76 defensive ERA. So, or dependent ERA, excuse me. So Adam Wainwright was definitely one of the bigger acquisitions, and I will get to who actually signed them and whatnot here in a second. The next guy that I wanted to talk about was Dan Uggla. Now, Dan Uggla is not somebody that is really known for their defense. However, his defense last year, he was at a 978 with a 503 range factor, had 17 errors. So, once again, not really known for his defense, but his hitting wasn't bad either. He had 32 home runs, 95 RBIs, did strike out a little bit too much than what I would, usually like in second baseman, but the average wasn't bad either. So definitely not too bad in terms of a person that you would want on your team at second base, if you would ask me. So we'll go over a few more guys here. We have Matthew Joyce, right fielder, 86 overall, another power hitter. Actually didn't have the year that he wanted last year, but I believe he was more a platoon player. Let me see here. Yeah, he was more of a platoon player, and really probably just came off the bench, or really when anybody was hurt, because he was a part of that World Series Tampa Bay Rays a few years ago. But acquisitions always put guys either on the pine, or riding the bench, whatever it is. Another guy we had was Hunter Pence, 85 overall, a very, very, very good contact hitter type of guy, who will give you power every once in a while, and very good defense as well. So definitely somebody that you could have kind of around, and even as a stopgap everyday guy, somebody you could put out there. Mike Morse, another really big contact power hitter, didn't have the year that Epic and the Mets were expecting. He hit for 265, which was an improvement over the year before. However, he did have 28 home runs, 35 doubles. So definitely not bad at all. More than likely not playing really any defense. Defense isn't all that great. Probably just going to be DH for the next few years as he rides out his time in New York, as the Mets reacquired him through free agency. And once again, I said I was going to get back to them. Other guys we have: left field, David Murphy, 83 overall. Willie Ibar, 83. Brandon Phillips, a very, very intriguing player. Last year, I had actually put out an offer for Brandon Phillips, and it was a pretty big one. However, Oakland said, nope, we're going to go ahead. We're going to put in an even bigger offer. I believe he gave him like 1 year, 14 mil. It was a pretty big deal. And it paid off huge, because he was one of the, if not the top second baseman in terms of production last year. 325 average, 197 hits, 26 doubles, 3 triples, 17 home runs. He had an OPS of 816, and his on-base percentage 354, not too bad, and also 24 stolen bases. So a really, really good pickup by Oakland and was easily one of the reasons why that they actually ended up in the World Series, but didn't win. Sorry about that. Other guys, Ryan Howard, Cliff Pennington, Mike Carp, Jeremy Hermida. Some of these guys had been sitting already on free agency all year. But, yeah, that's kind of what we're looking at. We did talk about Adam Wainwright, and there's a pretty big drop-off after that. Ben Sheets, 34 years old. I'm actually surprised personally that nobody picked him up because his first year as a Dodger, 3.20 ERA, went 17-9. Second year as a Dodger, went 20-8 with a 2.91 ERA. Then his last year, his third year, he went 20-6 with a 2.84 ERA. So we're talking about a guy who's an NL Cy Young winner and has a World Series under his belt. Now, he's 34 years old and definitely isn't the same person that he was before. However, I would definitely conclude and let everybody know that him sitting at the 82, 81 overall mark is where he sat all last year and still got the job done for me. Sad part was right before the playoffs, he got hurt. So he has himself a ring, but he was hurt. Whatever, it doesn't matter. But yeah, honestly, he probably isn't worth that second round compensation that I put him out there for. But honestly, if you are looking for a fill-in guy, because at this point you could go out there, put him on a 1-year deal for like $1.3 million, and you would have really good, like a surefire guy at the 3-4, maybe even the 5, in your rotation and still be okay. So I mean that's not bad at all if you ask me. So I believe let me go ahead and take a look to see where these guys ended up going. So Mark Reynolds ended up going to Toronto, which is pretty huge for Toronto because their offense has always been really good. Their offense has always been really good. It's always been their pitching that's always come back to bite them in the ass. So it's more so to see, where the team is going to go this year. And I'll go ahead and we'll go over the new alignment in a couple seconds. But it looks like he's going to have Mark Reynolds in the second, sitting in his second in the lineup, which is pretty sick because you got Steven Drew leading off. You got Mark Reynolds, Adam Lind, Edwin Encarnacion, Ian Stewart, Aaron Hill, and a few other guys right after that. The offense is sick. The pitching still needs work. We'll see what happens this year. He does have a few guys that are at least a jump away from getting into the MLB. I think Marcus Stroman will make it. Same with Drew Hutchinson and Kendall Graveman. So he does have some reinforcements on the way. He should get those guys by at least draft time, and that's when it's going to be really crunch time because, every game counts from there. Let me go ahead and let's see here. Dan Uggla still remains unsigned. Let me see here. It doesn't look like anybody has. No, it doesn't look like anybody's even claimed him either on free agency. So Dan Uggla's still out there, folks. I mean, obviously not the greatest defenseman, especially realistically, not the greatest defenseman. Let's see here. Matthew Joyce remains unsigned. Hunter Pence remains unsigned. Mike Morse, we talked about earlier, went back to the Mets. Let's see here. David Murphy still remains unsigned. It looks like Willie Ibar. Brandon Phillips ended up going back to Oakland. So big pickup by Oakland to be keeping him around, but on the cheap. So nice job by Oakland. I don't believe anybody else was really signed that I know of. I believe. Oh, sorry about that. So Adam Wainwright, the top pitcher in this year's class, free agency class, actually went to Atlanta. So Atlanta's looking pretty solid because you got the newly acquired Max Scherzer sitting at a 94 overall. You got CC Sabathia 91, Adam Wainwright 87. Then you got some youngsters right before then. So Atlanta's really going in not only for this year but for years to come because they do have quite a bit of talent. So big shouts out to them. And I will talk about that trade myself because it was actually a trade that I made. So I actually sent Matt Kemp and Max Scherzer to Atlanta for Mookie Betts. There was a top third base prospect, Moreno, and a bunch of draft picks. Because I'm finally rebuilding. Yes, I know I said that last year. It's actually kind of funny. I said that right before the draft last year. Nobody came into my PMs really and said, I want this person, I want that person. Everyone just kind of stayed hush hush, which worked out best for me because I ended up winning. So, yeah, and not a lot of people like that I win, because, I mean, what am I, chopped liver, No, but seriously, Chipper Jones also went back to ATL. Cliff Pennington, a guy that Oakland let go, ended up going to the Braves, which was another nice pickup. Jonathan Herrera also went to the Braves. The Braves did a lot of signings this year. Brian Wilson, a reliever, also went to the Braves, probably looking to bolster that rotation, bolster that bullpen, or even have some depth down in AAA. Mike Carp ended up going to Philadelphia. Mike Carp actually dropped a little bit that last year, but he's still very good against righties, and I think he'll actually do a pretty swell job for Philadelphia. Speaking of Philadelphia, they also picked up Daniel Bard, and Baltimore picks up Kurt Suzuki. I know there's some other stuff that ended up going down, I believe, in free agency, but it hasn't been reported yet. So I guess we just have to wait and see what ends up happening. So let me see here. I'll go back and look at the trades here pretty quickly. Let me look up. It looks like we haven't actually had a lot of trade volume going through the offseason. Excuse me. So we didn't have a lot of trade volume going through the offseason. I know it was such a weird offseason. We didn't sim to April 1st for quite a bit. A lot of guys were trying to trade on a last year's ratings and stuff like that. A lot of things went on, and I know it did affect a lot and affected my rebuild quite a bit because I wanted to wait till we sim to April 1st to really get that going. So as I was saying, I guess the biggest blockbuster trade of the offseason happened yesterday when I sent Max Scherzer and Matt Kemp to the Braves. As I said, for Mookie Betts, a top center field prospect, could be ready this year. I'm thinking he's going to be ready this year. Eduardo Moreno, a really good third baseman. I don't think he'll be ready this year. More than likely the next year. Jose Quintana. I mean, the funniest part is Mookie Betts and Jose Quintana I've been chasing for quite a bit of time. Also, Rafael Pimentero, 63-88 starting pitcher, and also the second through sixth round draft picks. I wondered why he didn't have a first, and that's because he got Adam Wainwright. So I really like the trade personally because it was me finally getting some of these guys off my team and saying, it's time to rebuild. I've been saying it's time to rebuild, and everybody looks at me and says, yeah, right. Yeah, fucking right. But it's like, I've been really trying to rebuild, but it seems like a lot of people don't want to trade with me. Whatever. If you're listening to this and someone told you not to trade with me, fuck them. No, but seriously, I finally did get some trades in. It's been pretty nice. I'm actually the only person that made a trade this damn offseason. I traded Asdrubal Cabrera to the Mariners for a second. Probably not the best value I could have got for him, but honestly, I'm just really trying to move these guys. I really like the draft this year, so I'm really trying to get any picks. I moved Mike Fires, excuse me. I've been saying Fears the past 3 or 4 podcasts. Mike Fires, the fireman. I sent him to the Blue Jays, who I completely forgot is on the Blue Jays now. And for a third-round draft pick and also just a relief body that I wanted to get in there. So if anybody's looking to trade and needs some stuff, you can go ahead and hit me up. I'm always here. So so I guess we can go ahead and just we can go ahead and start off, and we'll go ahead and we'll just start previewing. So the new alignment is a little bit different this year. In the NL East, we have the Mets, the Phillies, in the Nationals. So what we did was we moved Atlanta from the East, put them in the Central, and the NL Central now is Atlanta, Cincinnati, and Toronto. And in the West, we also got rid of the Giants and the Padres, leaving leaving the Dodgers and the Cardinals here in the West, and also we moved the Texas Rangers here to the West. So welcome to the National League, Texas Rangers. And in the American League, we got rid of Boston, obviously. So we're sitting here with Baltimore, New York, the Yankees, and Tampa Bay Rays. So also at the same time, in the AL Central, we got the Chicago White Sox, we got the Cleveland Indians, and the Detroit Tigers. And in the West, we're kicking it with the Angels, the A's, and the Mariners. So let's see here. We have quite a bit to go over, as I said here before. So we'll go ahead and we'll just start off with the NL West, since I'm always last, and I mean, my team isn't all that great anyway this year. So if you're listening to this podcast, I still have a pretty good team even after rebuilding. I still have Martin Prado, still got Matt Kemp, I don't have Matt Kemp. Why was he not traded? Oh my God! It looks like. Oh wait. Did I do this wrong? There we go. Sorry. So I was looking at the wrong file there. I had to go back to see the free agents. I completely forgot about that. So, and then I also let me import. All right, so I've imported all the lineups that have been turned in, so I can see what the teams are looking like. Here on the Dodgers, still got A-Rod, still got Mark Teixeira, still got Prince Fielder, Andre Ethier, and on the pitching side, still got Zach Greinke, Steven Strasburg, also Jose Quintana. Don't really have much else, maybe Jonathan Broxton, but honestly, I can honestly say that we're probably going to end up in last this year, and I'm okay with that. I'll take the first overall pick any day. So we'll just see what happens there, right? So next up, we got St. Louis. So St. Louis, man, I know they've been waiting for me to rebuild for quite some time, as they've been sitting in second and third for the past 3 years. And I feel kind of bad, but at the same time, that's baseball. That's mogul for you. So we're looking at Carlos Gonzalez. You got Greg Garcia. Still got the big baller Albert Pujols. Still got Matt Holliday, Colby Rasmus, Seth Smith, and a few other guys down at the bottom of the lineup. Randall Grichuk. Actually, I don't even think that's how you say his name. So I'm just going to pretend like I know his name. He's actually really, really good. Sitting in AAA right now. Has one more jump to go. I mean, his defense is already stellar as it is. His defense is absolutely ridiculous. He's got 93 fielding with 87 range, can play anywhere in the outfield, has a huge power bat, and one more jump, and he's going to be pretty damn solid. He also has 87 speed, so that's pretty big for St. Louis to bring up somebody like that. Where he's going to play, I'm not too sure. I know he's been trying to trade Matt Holliday over the past offseason. Doesn't look like there's very many bites, but it's all right because it's, not the end of the world. Miguel Sano, also another guy sitting at third base. Not bad at all in his farm, Still has a couple more years. Alex Bregman, Ben Gamel, Raimel Tapia. These guys are actually really good. So St. Louis is actually set up for quite a few years. Still has Felix Hernandez as the ace. Still has Tyler Lyons. I guess he's using him as a starting pitcher this year. Tyler Lyons, we got Ricky Nolasco, Shelby Miller, and Tyson Ross. So not bad. I actually thought Carlos Martinez was going to make it to the MLB last year, but didn't have the jump I expected him. So hopefully he'll make it to the MLB this year, and he'll be able to help out St. Louis during the season. St. Louis is looking pretty good. I would predict, especially if I can get the rest of my team sold off, that St. Louis is going to be looking at probably a 95-win year if all goes well. Now, Texas, It's about the same story. They've been in it. I don't believe that they've made the play. I think they've made the playoffs one time so far, but now that they have an actual GM, after a while, he's looking to make a splash here. So you got Mike Mustaka, still got Nelson Cruz, Wilson Betamete, still got Michael Saunders, Dustin Ackley, and a few other guys that we're currently looking at as well. Still have Max Muncy sitting in his minor leagues. Still got Wilmer Defoe and Joey Gallo. Also, guys that are further out, Rougned Odor, Dansby Swanson, and Dion Clappers. Dion Clappers, that's a name, right? On the pitching side, it's not looking too good. I mean, that's probably going to be the one thing that's going to hold him back this year is his pitching doesn't have a true ace and barely has a true number 2. So I guess we'll just have to see what ends up happening at that point. He doesn't have too much coming up in terms of prospects. So if you're listening to this, I'm not bagging on you. I know you have a lot of prospects further out. So, I mean, that's not bad either. I would say that Texas is probably going to end up winning anywhere from 70 to 80 games, in my opinion. They are projected 65, but honestly, that'll change as more of my guys get sold off as we go along. So we'll move on to I think that the Cardinals are going to end up winning the West. So NL Central, we have, let's see here, we have Atlanta, Cincinnati, and Toronto. We'll start off with Atlanta. So Atlanta was one of the bigger stories this year, even though he's been saying that he's a big story for the past 3 years and just makes the playoffs and loses real quick. Yeah, I'm talking to you, TMP, you bastard. No, TMP is a really good GM. A lot of the times I don't know what the fuck he's doing, but it works. So even better on him. Top guys, Jason Hayward, 90-95, gonna be the top right fielder this year in the file after he jumps again. And then also the newly acquired Matt Kemp and Robinson Cano smack dab in the middle of that lineup. Looks like Cliff Pennington's gonna be his leadoff man. So not bad at all. Not bad at all. Jake Lamb, 81-86. I'm not too big of a fan of the guys who just sit in the all 80s because their production doesn't usually turn out too good. However, Jake Lamb's 81-86 still has one more jump. His birthday isn't until October 9th, so yeah, he'll get a jump for sure. He may even get a second jump. He's only 22 years old and usually peaks around 24. So we'll see what happens. Anton Richardson, he tried to trade him last year during the trade deadline. Didn't get much bites, but he did finish off with a 252 average and 31 jacks. Also 24 stolen bases. So 2020 club batted an 817 OPS, and he's sitting in the 6th spot. The 6th spot. So not bad at all. Freddie Freeman, 85-88. I mean, Freddie Freeman, I didn't think he was going to get to where he was at today, but he's here with 90 contact, 85 power, 81 gap power, 84 eye, and an 88 fielding at first base. And he's only 23. So with 3 points of peak left, he has up until September 12th to get a jump. So for sure, he'll get a jump. I'm predicting that he'll end up as an 88, like 93 probably 88, 91, and then end up peaking in October. So just peaking even at 88 is not bad at all either. So definitely not bad. I really like what he's doing with the team. And back on the pitching side, we already talked about it. Max Scherzer, CC Sabathia, Adam Wainwright. Depending on what he wants to do with the rest of his rotation, not too sure. It looks like Tommy Hansen's going to be his number 4. Tommy Hansen actually put up 216 innings last year out of the 4 and 5 spot that he was sitting in the rotation with the 4.53 ERA. So he wasn't getting quality start after quality start, but he was still getting the job done in terms of eating up some innings. And I really like that out of any pitcher. You know, as long as you don't go in and you're letting up 6 runs a game, 7 runs a game, 5 runs a game. If you can manage 3 to 4, I'm okay with that. And I'm sure everybody else is as well. Alex Wood's going to be really nice. He's going to have one more jump. However, the past 2 years, his ERA hasn't been very good. He had 26 games of action last year and had a 5.04 ERA. But I know he believes in him because he has very good vitals. He just needs one more jump to really bring up that movement. And once he brings up the movement and the power a little bit, he's going to be really good. And honestly, he'll probably end up being the 3 by the end of the year, depending on how Adam Wainwright really reacts to how the file goes and the year goes along. Craig Kimbrell, still one of the top closers in the file. Kind of had a little bit of a drop off last year, but I mean, looked out. Of course I did. I think what will end up happening is he'll have another good season. He had 25 saves last year, nothing too great, but he still did have a 2.31 ERA closing. So not bad at all. His bullpen's still good. Johnny Venters, 3 ERA. Luis Avalon, 3.12 ERA. Corey Rasmus, 2.75. So really, it's still not bad at all. He still has guys like Randall Delgado, Ronis Elias, Aroydis Vizcaíno. All 3 of those guys can end up coming up by the end of this year or in the middle of the year. I'm going to say probably around draft time, all those guys will come back up because I don't think Johnny Venters and Luis Avalon will keep up what they're doing, especially being the lefties that they are. Some later guys, Vince Velasquez. Let's see here. We got Chris Perry, Raymond Thornton, Jeff Hoffman, Aaron Crompton, and Shane Thornton. So they got the Thornton brothers down there. So definitely not bad. I expect this team to win 100 games. Personally, I mean, if they don't win 100, if they don't reach even the 95 mark, it's going to be kind of a disappointment because this team is very, very good. So next up, we got Cincinnati. Cincinnati wasn't too doing too much last year. They didn't push for it, and they also didn't say that we're completely out of it. I know they were waiting for some prospects to end up jumping. Some of them just didn't jump the way that he intended. And, it kind of sucks because some of his guys seem to have missed some of their jumps. And that's more of a file thing. But also at the same time, it's kind of real life too. So when you're looking at his key players, Jay Bruce, Didi Gregorius, and I guess you could say like Kelly Johnson and Tucker Barnhart. I'm not too sure what happened with some of the prospects. Some of the prospects aren't really too close. I mean, but he still has very good prospects that are kind of far away. You got Greg Bird, Yadiel Rivera, Mason Williams, Rio Ruiz. Let's see here, Charlie Viola, Chuck Huntsman, and David Dahl. So not bad at all. Just waiting, just rebuilding a little bit. On the pitching side, you got Homer Bailey, Michael Pineda, James Paxton, and Raisel Iglesias. So, yeah, I think the bullpen, the starting pitching itself, the rotation itself is not bad at all. I think he could definitely nab either a 3 or a 4 and 5 guy to really fill in, and that would definitely help him out this year. Because remember, guys, there's no wild cards now. Like it's a 3-team race all the way to the end, and that's cool too. Because I think a lot of people would prefer the 3-team race, over having to try to sit in a wild card spot. Although I think there probably is a wild card spot, I'm not too sure. So we'll go on to the Central, and we'll keep it here in the Central. Go to the Toronto Blue Jays. We talked about the Toronto Blue Jays earlier. Stephen Drew, Mark Reynolds, Adam Lynn, Edwin Encarnacion, Ian Stewart, Aaron Hill, Travis Schneider, and a couple other guys. A new guy that came up last year was Moises Sierra, who's a pretty good power speed guy. So I guess we'll see what ends up happening. Didn't really have too good of a showing last year, but it's a new year. Let's see what happens. Also still has Devin Travis in the wings, as well as Jonathan Villar and Carson Kelly. So Carson Kelly, a nice catcher prospect, righty, 18 years old, straight out of Chicago, was drafted in the second round of last year's draft. So still has a couple more years, but he's going to be a really solid catcher for them. Once again, we talked about on the pitching side, he's going to need more pitching. He did acquire Mike Fiers, who was 13-4 last year with a 3.17 ERA. Albeit with me, the Dodgers, and we had a great year. We won over 100 games. So depending on the type of production Mike Fiers puts up, I think it'll really help to bolster this pitching staff as we go along. We still got Sergio Romo as the closer, and still have the same kind of culprits that we have in the bullpen. We talked about Kendall Graveman, Drew Hutchinson, Aaron Johnson. Still got Jordan Lyles, Marcus Stroman, Lance McCullers, Aaron Vallejo, and Robert Whalen. So a lot of those mid to high 80 prospects, not bad at all. So I think it's going to be a two-team race between Atlanta and Toronto. Mogul's projecting Atlanta at 86 and Toronto at 82. I say Atlanta's going to hit 95, possibly 100, depending on injuries. In Toronto, I can easily see them hitting 90. But it's going to be up to that pitching staff. If that pitching staff does not do anything like in years past, they're not going to get to where they want to be. So, moving on to the NL East, we got we got the Washington Nationals, Philadelphia Phillies, and the New York Mets. So, we'll start off with the New York Mets, who once again suffered a playoff exit early. The first round, upset by Toronto. Second year, made it to the World Series and lost to the Rays. And Paulie, I know you're listening because he lost to Jacob. So, I know Jacob doesn't listen to this, so whatever. That's probably pretty embarrassing for him. He has an incredible squad. Jose Reyes, Troy Tulowitzki, Miguel Cabrera, Brian McCann, David Wright, Mike Morse, who we talked about earlier, 28 jacks straight out the building. Also has Robbie Grossman, didn't do too well last year, but Jared Dyson, man, he had 101 steals last year. And he's batting last. And Jose Reyes, with 92 steals last year, is batting first. Absolutely ridiculous. So the question is always, can you get on base? So both of them, 323 on base percentage for Dyson, 336 on base for Reyes. Not the worst, not the best. But those stolen bases, man, let's see here. Man. Having a last season, right? Jeez. So he was caught stealing quite a bit, 28 times out of that 101. So he's definitely a risk taker, and it's a high risk, high reward. But I guess we'll end up seeing what happens. Another guy that's getting ready to come up, probably one more jump away. Craig Bland, switch hitting left fielder, 75-87. Birthday isn't until March 4th, so he'll probably end up dropping. Oh, actually, his birthday just passed. Excuse me. So he's going to be pretty nice. He's going to be he'll probably take over for Lucas Duda, who's at right field right now. And that'll be probably by the draft. I'm going to say by the draft is when a lot of guys start jumping. Tim Lamb, a catcher, a little further away. Michael Conforto, Roman Quinn, Dilson Herrera, not too bad. On the pitching side, still got Madison Bumgarner, 90-95, Jacob deGrom, 92-93, Josh Johnson, 87, Jake Peavy, 84, and then it kind of falls down from there. Now, he still has guys behind that are getting ready to come up. Noah Syndergaard, 76-86, Zach Davies, 72-88, Both of those guys are going to be really good in the future. Zach Davies was actually the second overall from Cleveland, but traded over to the Mets in the Johan deal just last year. And also, he still has K-Rod as his closer and Yuri's Familia as the setup man. So not bad for the Mets. I expect them to win 100 games again. Philadelphia. Philadelphia is kind of sitting in the same boat as they were last year, where they just were just kind of there. And I feel bad because the team had a lot of potential. But as I tell a lot of people, and the potential in mogul, it don't do nothing. It don't do nothing. The potential in mogul is like, oh man, it's like, do you play Fortnite? If you play Fortnite, you know exactly what I'm talking about. When you're running and you're looking for a better gun and you see something gold in the distance, and you're like, God damn, that's a gold scar. So you run as fast as you can. You're like Charlie in the chocolate factory. You got that golden ticket and you're running and you're gunning and you get there. And there's Slugworth. Goddamn Slugworth. Well, this time it's a little bit different because it ends up being like a fucking hand cannon or a dual pistol. Bullshit. Because nobody wants that. I mean, the hand cannons aren't bad, but still, a golden minigun? Really? Really epic? A golden minigun. Should have been a freaking scar. That's kind of how I see this team. Because the team has always had enough. They have Lorenzo Cain, Justin Upton, Chase Utley, Chris Davis, Justin Smoke, Matt Wieters, Alex Gordon, Jason Worth. Still have those guys. But they just don't, it just doesn't happen. You have guys coming up, Dominic Brown, Dick Hammerstein. You still got James Zimkind. And yeah, that's kind of it that we see. We also have Odubel Cabrera on that side as well. On the pitching side's always been pretty solid. Tim Lincecum, Cole Hamels, Patrick Corbin, Jared Parker, and Jake Arrieta. Not bad at all. Still has some other guys sitting in the minors. You got Jose Fernandez, rest in peace, Stu Couch, Robert Stevenson, Camber Drozian, as well as Paco Rodriguez. So still have plenty of guys getting ready to come up. He needs to bolster that bullpen. I mean, right now, Hector Neris is not going to get it done as your closer, bro. Josh Lindblom, man, he had a pretty big drop. That was kind of harsh. I will definitely give you that one. Justin DeFraudis. I'm not going to try to say that guy's name because I already know I'm going to mess it up. RRS, Ryan Roland Smith. They're just not going to get it done. You need to get more bullpen, or you're just not going to be able to compete, especially in the division with New York. So we'll move on to Washington. Washington, we're currently sitting in rebuild still. Actually has a lot of guys getting ready to come up. Carmelo Puentes, center field, batting left, 20 years old. I mean, this guy's an absolute stud. He's going to be a stud for years to come. So nice job on that end. Charles Musselman, or as I refer to him as Muscle Man, because, I mean, even though he doesn't hit for power, it doesn't matter. He's got great defense, and he's already got solid contact, solid hitting already going. He's only 19 with a 67 overall. So, I mean, a guy like him, Carlos Correa, just picked last year. AJ Reed, one of my favorites. I already missed that guy. I picked him. Sergio, let's see here. Cantabrana. I don't know how to fucking say that name. I'm just going to stop. And Keto Marte, some other guys getting ready to come up. Max Zelabon, I didn't see this guy. He actually looks really solid. So nice job drafting by the Nationals so far. On the pitching side, still has an okay rotation. Still got some older veteran guys. Dan Herron, Josh Beckett, Mike Minor, Brad Peacock, Tanner Roark. So not going to go for the big one. Still waiting on guys like Felipe Rivero, Yordano Ventura, Mike Fulton-Newitz, and let's see here. That's kind of it in terms of top guys. Still has some mid guys to go, and I'm almost positive that okay, so he's the third overall pick this year, so not bad at all. So New York going to win 100 games. I fully expect them to win the division, barring a complete disaster or barring Philadelphia having this insane season where they play out of their mind. And Washington will be last. But if Washington ends up being Philadelphia, man, Philly, you're going to hear from everybody on that one. So off to the American League. On the AL East, we'll start off with the East. We got Baltimore, we got the Yankees, and the Rays. So Baltimore last year was a big seller at the very end of the trade deadline, getting rid of guys like Zach Greinke, and that's all that I remember got traded because he went to me and I'm self-absorbed and really conceited, and all I care about is myself. So, no, but seriously, they still have quite a few guys that they can trade off. Guys like Nick Markakis and Joe Mahoney. Even Nolan Reinbold had a really good year, but just didn't get too many bites last year. Looking to more than likely retool. They have quite a bit of prospects sitting in their minor leagues at the moment. On the pitching side, not really sporting too much. Still have Michael Givens as a really good potential reliever. Could be potential closer by the end of the year. Still have Kevin Gausman. And I did mention they had a lot of picks. They did take my entire draft last year so I could acquire Zach Greinke, which was a big, huge help because, as I said, I lost Ben Sheets, and then Zach Greinke basically ended up closing Game 7 for me. So nice job. Thank you again, Madeline. Baltimore kind of, once again, in that retool year. They're probably not going to end up winning the division unless Tampa Bay ends up just dying. So New York has been rebuilding since the second year. Their first GM during the first year just couldn't get it together, wanted to start rebuilding, just wasn't feeling it, and ended up leaving. Having guys like Bryce Harper, Javier Baez, Slade Heathcott, Tim Anderson, Tyler Austin, Ramon Arizmendez, and Connor Ashmore. Not bad at all, especially since he's still sitting with guys like Russell Martin, who decided to re-jump again. Oh, great. Anyways, Russell Martin, Yangervis Soyarte, not bad at all. On the pitching side, still has Masahiro Tanaka. Didn't pitch too well last year, but he's going to get another jump this year, and he's going to be able to redeem himself. Still has Joakim Soria as his closer. Luis Severino is actually a huge prospect to look out for, sitting at a 76.95. I believe he is the top peaked catcher this year, or starting pitcher this year, excuse me. Also has a couple other guys, Aaron Nola, one of my personal favorites, Clay McCauley, Luis Perdomo, Efraim Jimenez, and a couple other guys as well. So New York's still rebuilding. I don't actually foresee New York or Baltimore winning the division this year. I definitely say that Tampa Bay is going to win the division, and we'll go over them. And it's kind of funny because they've haven't really done anything with the lineup, because I guess it's like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? They won the World Series last year. They made the playoffs last year, so they're going to go again. Melvin Upton, Ben Zobrist, Evan Longoria, Ryan Braun, Robinson Chirinos, Carlos Quinton, Alexi Ramirez, Yonder Alonso, and Desmond Jennings. So really, 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 really good lineup. And these are guys that are hitting over 20 home runs up until the final three guys. It's ridiculous. On the pitching side, still needs some help. James Shields, Matt Garza, former Fresno State guy. What's up, Matt Garza, even though you're not listening? Jake Odorizzi, as well as Alex Cobb and David Price. Rafael Soriano, still the closer, still sitting there. Not bad at all. I mean, the bullpen has really held them up during the season and even during the playoffs. Still has Chris Archer on the way up. I could see Chris Archer getting his his jump this year, probably within the first probably 4 Sims. and then him being brought up to take over for probably either Alex Cobb or David Price. We'll see what happens. Guys that are a little further away, Lucas Giolito, and also a guy that's pretty close, Matt Moore. One more jump and he should be good enough. So I expect Tampa Bay to win 90 games this year, especially in their division, and win the division. So that's what I'm looking at for the AL East. Let's see here. The AL Central. We got the White Sox, we got the Indians, and we got the Tigers. So the White Sox, their GM is let me just say their GM is Ryan, and we'll stop from there. Okay, now the Cleveland Indians. Oh man, the Cleveland Indians. The Cleveland Indians last year really made a big push, won 90 games. They were actually sitting at 500 at one point and still won 90 games. Had an absolutely monstrous August and a monstrous September to really put them into playoff contention. Didn't make it too far. I feel kind of bad because Amesker works really hard with that team. Still got Sinsu Chu, Paul Goldschmidt, Adam Jones, Lonnie Chisenhall, Luis Valbuena, Elian Herrera, Roberto Perez, Ricky Weeks, and John Jay. Other guys that they still have coming up, Howie Winstead. Nice shortstop. Doesn't have the best fielding, but he'll have enough fielding to really make it in the MLB, if you ask me. He's a really good shortstop, 22 years old, one more jump, and he'll be in. Scott Schebler, Delino DeShields. He still has, let me see here. Let's see, Alfredo Velasquez, as well as Martin Schroesfire. I don't know how to say his damn name. So not bad. On the pitching side, still has Johan, still has Clayton Kershaw, Danny Salazar, Yu Darvish, and Chase Anderson. Definitely a really, really good rotation. Going to need more bullpen help unless his bullpen repeats what it did last year. Vinny Pastino, 28 saves at a 1.38 ERA. Putnam with a 2.23 ERA. Kenley Jansen at a 3.01 ERA. Robbie Ross at a 2.93 ERA. Tony Sipp, 2.25, and Zach McAllister, 2.24. That has to be the best bullpen in baseball in terms of production, right? So we'll just end up seeing what happens. Has a couple other guys in the minors. One to look out for, Matthew Abbott. I think Matthew Abbott's going to be not too bad, but he's also has a long way to go for that point. Next up, we'll go to the Detroit Tigers, also in the AL Central. The Tigers, big rebuild team with a lot of potential. Still has Dexter Fowler, Scott Sizemore, Johnny Peralta, Tyler White, Fernando Martinez. I wonder how Fernando Martinez. He's actually not turning out bad at all. He was actually one of the top pieces that went in the Miguel Cabrera trade. And this is one of the first times that I've actually seen Fernando Martinez over an 86 overall. And he's an 86-88. He was his birthday's on October 10th. And when that ends up happening, when he has his jump, he's actually going to be pretty studly, and I think he's going to be pretty damn sexy. Also, you still got Francisco Lindor, Eugenio Suarez, as well as Byron Buxton, Steven Moya, Josh Bell, Jeffrey Marte, Avisail Garcia, Albert Almora, Addison Russell, Manuel Margot, Heimer Candelario, Zach Sloan, Oscar Hernandez, Blake Sweetheart. Man, Detroit has one of the best farms right now, easily. That's where I want to be in my rebuild. I guess we'll have to see what happens after this damn thing happens, the draft. Now on the pitching side, not too much going on. Bruce Rondon, Corey Nebel, both of them will be future relief options. If not, one of them will end up being the closer. Drew Smiley will definitely be in the lineup for years to come, but more as like a 3-4 guy going forward. Still has Taijuan Walker, Aaron Sanchez, Jacob Turner, also Drew Pomeranz. Where did Drew Pomeranz come from? Okay, so he still has Drew Pomeranz. It looks like, Drew Pomeranz was one of the guys that was in the Miguel Cabrera trade a couple years ago. So Drew Pomeranz is going to be the ace for them this year. Probably won't be the ace for years to come. But, I mean, you got guys like Robbie Ray, Michael Waka, Tyler Skaggs. I mean, it's already looking really good. If those guys pan out, Detroit's going to look really good by the end of this year. You could see them still, on a lower scale, but the last couple months can really determine what he does in free agency. I mean, if you go into September and you win like 20 games, I mean, that means your team's ready. You know what I mean? So we just have to wait and see what Detroit does. I fully expect Cleveland to take the division this year, and Chicago second, Detroit last. Depending on how Detroit's people, how their prospects develop, and how their close to ready prospects develop as well, he's definitely going to end up in probably last or take second. We'll end up seeing what happens here. So let me see here. So we'll go ahead and we'll get towards the end here. In the AL West. Now, I did say that this was going to go up until 5 or an hour long. It's going to be a little bit over an hour, probably going to be like an hour and 20, probably a little bit less than that. I don't know yet. We'll see what happens. So in the AL West, it's going to be a dogfight between Oakland and Seattle. Now, Seattle had a really, really down year last year as they just couldn't get it together, but I have confidence in the Seattle GM, GK. He's a really good dude, and I feel like he knows what he's doing. So this was a team that won 100 games just the year before last, and they just added Asdrubal Cabrera. So you got Ichiro, you got McCutchen, you got Grady Sizemore, Ike Davis, Joey Votto, Asdrubal Cabrera. I mean, the lineup's looking really, really solid and nice. They don't really have too many prospects coming up. It does look like that they just re-signed Billy Butler. So Billy Butler will be another guy to put in that lineup. That's going to be really nice. So that's what we're looking at for that. On the pitching side, you got Justin Verlander, Giovanni Gallardo, Chris Sale, Chad Billingsley, and Danny Duffy. All of them above 84 overall. Justin Verlander, obviously the ace at 94 overall, and he's still young. 30 years young. But as we know, in these files, Justin Verlander seems to last a long time. So we'll see what happens. Aroldis Chapman had finally put it together last year, had a 2.05 ERA, wasn't the closer, but he said it's finally time to take out Nate Jones out of the closer spot and put Aroldis Chapman in. Great job. Carson Smith, he could potentially be a closer as well. He's going to be sitting in the setup. Darren O'Day, John Danks, Marco Estrada, as well as Doug Fister. So it's a very, very good bullpen in terms of on paper. How they end up doing, we'll see. Also, guys still waiting in the wing, Trevor Rosenthal. I mean, he's going to have to end up trading most of these guys at some point. Trevor Rosenthal and Carter Capps, both of those guys waiting in the wings as starting pitchers. So I guess we'll end up seeing what happens. Mogul's saying that they're going to win 94 games. I tend to agree. They'll win around 94, 95 games. Next up, we got the Los Angeles Angels. So the Angels GM's a little bit new, but I feel like he has a lot of potential because he knows the game really well, like as in baseball. So that's always a big advantage because of the simple fact that a lot of people come in, they just want to play sim leagues and they don't know what the hell they're doing. They don't know a thing about baseball, and I've seen it happen before. Obviously, the top guy, Mike Trout, 90-95. I mean, I'm glad that trade got vetoed because there's no way that trade should have went through anyways, so glad it didn't. Anyways, Kendrys Morales and Mike Trout are going to head that lineup this year. More than likely going to end up rebuilding. Has guys like Gavin Cecchini, or I think it's Cecchini, something like that. Tommy Joseph. Still has Jim Manchoy, Pedro Severino. Got Andrew Benintendi, Travis McLeod. or McLeod. I don't know what the hell you want to call him. Chad Atwell, Enrico Albino, and Randy Reebok or Rudy Reebok. Well, either way, that's a weird ass name, Rudy Reebok. Rudy Reebok. Okay. Anyways, so to ace, the ace is still going to be Jared Weaver, although he did fall a little bit last year. Probably will continue declining as we go along the season. If I were you, I would hold on to Mike Trout and trade everybody else. So that's honestly what I would do, because you got Irvin Santana, Scott Kazmir, Matt Schumacher, Garrett Richards. It's not going to work really well. But we'll see what happens. You also have some draft picks as well. That'll definitely be one of the things. I say the Angels will probably more than likely finish last. And last but not least, the World Series losing Oakland A's. I have to introduce you like that because I know it hurts your heart, because I talk so much shit for the past 3 years. And a lot of the times when I'm talking shit, I'm not trying to shit on people, but you know that I've always talked about my team, how good it was. And I mean, it's been good enough to win 100 games for 3 years straight. And you came right in to the World Series to face me. And man, honestly, at the time, I wasn't really thinking about the ramifications of if I lost, I was going to lose to you, JP. But now that I think about it, those are some pretty big ramifications. I'll definitely give you that. So I won't shit on you too much. You have a lot of good prospects. I mean, excuse me, you have a lot of good players. I think one of the biggest things was bringing up Nolan Arenado. So Ryan Sweeney, Brandon Phillips, re-signing Brandon Phillips, Buster Posey, Yoenis Cespedes, Nolan Arenado, Ian Kinsler, Josh Donaldson, Michael Taylor, and also still has Blair Carson sitting as a backup catcher who's not bad either. Still has Trevor Story in his AAA, Matt Olson, Jason Eckerode, Malik Smith. Wow, what a name. Hiroto Aida. And so, yeah, you still have a really bright future. You made it to the World Series. You've been there. You know what it's like. All you got to do now is get back. Matt Cain's going to head off the rotation. Rich Harden, Sonny Gray, Dan Straley, AJ Griffin. Those are going to be the keys to your success this year. Sonny Gray, 82-88, needs one more jump and he'll be a stud. Dan Straley, one more jump and he'll definitely live up to that 3 or 4 potential that he currently has. And if AJ Griffin can throw a 3.64 again this year out of the 5 spot, you probably won't have any reason not to win. I think your biggest flaw is going to be your closer. Henry Rodriguez, I mean, I'm not saying that he's bad, but, I mean, if you looked into the playoffs, he gave up a couple saves, blew a couple saves, blew a couple games. So that means, So that means you should definitely be looking for a bullpen or a closer, of some sort, because, I mean, what else, Also has guys like Ryan Dole and Nathan Eovaldi at the end of his bullpen. Got guys like Jeremiah Benitez, Luke Weaver, Coda Glover. And yeah, so guys like that can easily be traded for a closer, in my opinion. But if you want to hold on to them, that's fine as well. AJ Cole as well, kind of struggling a little bit, but still could be worth something at the end of the day. So with that being said, once again, we talked about Oakland. We talked about LA. Now, who's going to win, who's going to win that division? Oh, man. It's really hard to say, honestly, because, when you really look at it, I think Oakland has a better chance of winning because LA is more prone to going through slumps, because I feel like their team isn't built from depth. It's just built from, a really good bullpen, and Mike Trout right in the middle. I mean, all you need is Mike Trout, right? So, I mean, I guess it really just depends on what ends up happening. I'm not too sure. I don't know. I'm not too sure what's going to end up happening, but man, I'm going to have to just go with Oakland to win the division with the Angel and I don't even know why I'm saying the Angels. My God, I actually meant Seattle. So Seattle, and I was really talking about L.A. Their team is not the greatest, but they're not bad either. They're definitely not built from depth. Seattle was the other team that I was talking about. For some reason, I just lost my train of thought. I really like Seattle, and man, depending on how the GM really GMs him this year, I don't know. I really cannot say. Oakland, you have to get your bullpen together early. If you start seeing that your bullpen starts falling apart early, you need to get some relief because Seattle is built like a damn tank. And so are you, but they're just a little bit better. Just a little bit better. And I think with a GM like GK, they're definitely going to make a good run this year. So I believe in you, JP. Truthfully, I do. And I believe in you too as well, GK. So yeah, that's kind of like going to be the end of the preview. Um, I don't really have too much else to say. I don't think I've ever said that in my life, as I talk a lot. There's a lot of people talking about in the chat right now about prospects dropping and whatnot. I know it's a big thing as the file still continues to equalize itself. It's definitely not done. We did just Thanos 6 teams, so it's going to be one of those things where you kind of look and wonder, how it's all going to work out. So, I'm rebuilding. So come and get your players from the Dodgers. Still got Prince Fielder. Still got Zach Greinke. Zach Greinke might actually be traded within the next few, maybe by tomorrow. I don't know yet. I have an offer out for him, but not sure if I want to take it quite yet. Also have other guys, Prince Fielder, Mark Teixeira. Mark Teixeira, one of the best switch hitting first basemen and has an elite defense and still has a very good bat. So yeah, that's kind of how I'm gonna end it. Putting myself out there and yeah, just telling everybody how good my players are so that you'll trade for them. And to further prove that I'm nothing more than an egocentric SOB. But seriously, thank you for everybody listening. Thank you for everybody playing. I really don't have any much else to say. There hasn't been too much going on. We announced a few things during the off season that I went over, a few trades. I think this year's going to be really make or break for a couple teams, and also this year's going to be one of those transition years where we'll see different teams get into the playoffs. I'm definitely not going to be making the playoffs. I don't even care if I'm at the trade deadline and might be within striking range. I really don't give a damn. I'm trading guys off. That's all I know. So, with that being said, there's not really much else I can really say or anything like that. So, I guess we just kind of have to go from there, right? So, let's go ahead and have a great season. All right. And now you hear Discord in the background. Anyways, let's go ahead and have a great season. Let's have an awesome year. Let's stay civil, talk a little bit of shit, have a lot of fun. Keep it flat, and we'll go from there. All right, players, that's how it's gonna be. Life could be anything but a catastrophe. Suddenly, I begin to see a bit of good life for me. 'Cause I got a golden ticket. I got a golden twinkle in my eye. Oh, this song is weak. I don't know why I even ended off with that song. I was hoping it was the actual video version, so I'm just gonna redo that. I think this is the actual. God damn. Up and about. I haven't done this in 20 years. Oh, Grandpa. I can't even do this with a straight face. Take it easy, everybody.